and this is the Sourceseeker Hour. Thank everybody for joining us. This is our 107th episode. It has been very much a blessing. I was talking previously with our guest about how we started and some of the things that we've been through, and we're still here and we're getting better. I do expect maybe a few more people to come in, maybe just running late. We're actually started early though, and I like that. Sometimes I did get chastised one time for starting early though. I have to be honest about that. I do not believe in wasting time though. Time is very important. And so when I have an opportunity, and me and my guest, the powerful sister, the Moss Queen, the Houston Moss Queen, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to get deeply into that. Why the Moss Queen? Now, we know moss is a plant, I believe. I think I'm correct in my science and my biology, but isn't it also associated with underwater? And is that some of the nutrients that we're talking about when we're talking about the Moss Queen? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I know a little bit. Yes. So I'm going to introduce her, or let me say, let her introduce herself. The Houston Moss Queen, Sister Camille, please take over.
Okay, so thank you for being on the show. Thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it. I'm being here to speak to you all. I am the Houston Sea Moss Queen. Camille is my name. I graduated from Prairie View A&M University. So, outside of Houston area, I studied chemical engineering and kind of worked in that field, but that kind of wasn't where my heart was. My heart was always in medicine. I tried the traditional route. It just wasn't a good fit for me as far as my beliefs and things that I believe in and want to do. So I tried engineering again through consultant engineering, and ended up leaving there and said, I want to take matters into my own hands. That was February 2020. I guess God had a plan because the timing of it all, that's when COVID hit. I did not know that was going to happen when I quit. And then I had been wanting to do CMOS for a while. I found it back in 2016. A friend of mine had said, hey, you should sell this stuff. And I was like, you're right. But at the time I didn't have time in corporate America, right? Our busy schedules. So with my free time, I decided to do it. And then it's kicked off, and March will be 2 years for me.
Okay. A little bit before the show started, I talked about, I think I started talking about it when the show started a little bit also. Moss Queen, moss. Why moss? Why moss plants?
Yes, so sea moss. Sea moss is a type of algae. So it's a type of superfood because it is also tied with seaweed. So seaweed has so many benefits and nutrients because of the ocean water, the seawater, right? So it grows in there and absorbs as many nutrients and minerals as it can, more than we get like on land, especially with, how life is today. So it's said to have 92 minerals of the 102 that the body is composed of. So it really helps to balance our nutritional poor diets and give us a lot of things that we're missing. So it is rich in.
May I ask a question? I'm sorry. So it's plants in the sea. So there are people that actually go down in the sea and get the plant and bring it up?
Correct.
Whoa. Mm-hmm. Whoa. So they go through a lot to go through it. So it must be very valuable. I'm sorry. Go back to your story. Yeah.
No, please. I welcome questions at any point.
Okay, but that just so they must know the value of what's down there. The sea moss. You said algae, right? Didn't you say algae? Okay. They must go through quite a bit of expense to go down there and get that. Then they have to drain it, and then do they have to? How do they package it? I mean, how do you get it into your way that you have it? And then what do you tell people as far as making sense? Because see, we talking science, but if you're gonna break it down to people, okay, how does it benefit them?
Yes. So you asked a lot of questions. I'll start with, and I meant to bring a jar and some sea moss with me, but pretty much it is harvested from the ocean. They take it and they sun dry it, so therefore it's dried. So of
Do
course,
you have a jar close to you?
I had to have to get up.
How far?
Not that far.
Go get it real quick, and I'll tell the audience a few things. Okay, I was out searching for more relevant information about the new diet. As some of you all know, that's a part of the mission of the Brighter Source Group, to try to find ways to benefit and to better ourselves. Overall, our motto is care for ourselves and caring for others. So I was out searching, and I met Sister Camille, and we talked about, there was a brother over here with some fruit, and then the sister was over here as the Moss Sea Queen. And that was very interesting. I didn't have time at that second, but I said, I have to have the sister on the show so we can find out more about why moss. Moss. Let me say that correctly. Moss, right? Moss. Okay. I think I'm saying it right. So do you have a jar?
Yes. So this is what it looks like dried. So, so this is because it has like these fine, like long kind of finger-like projections coming off. That's what you look for. There's two types that's real popular. This is the genus Gracilaria, and then there's the Chondrus crispus. And a lot of people confuse the two. So Chondrus crispus goes by the name Irish moss. This goes by sea moss, which is grown in the tropics. So like the Caribbean. Has a lighter color because of the sun. And then you have the Irish moss that grows in cold waters. So like Ireland, Canada, British Isles up there. And it's darker. So it's really dark purple, flat-headed. Kind of looks more of like the type of seaweed you would think of.
Okay, can I review a little bit of that? First, you said two K words. Two K words that were about where they came from?
Yeah, so it's two types. So
okay,
you know how you have like two, different types of like tomatoes, fruits, or potatoes. It's two types of sea moss, as you will. So Chondrus crispus is actually CH, and then the crispus CR. That one is
okay.
That one's Irish moss, and that's going to only get in cold waters. So like Ireland, Canada, British Isles, and it's richer. But a lot of people confuse the two. A lot of people think that one, but I have this, and this is.
If I may say, if I may ask, I would think it would be green.
They have green varieties.
But so there are many different colors of sea moss?
Yes, the most prominent colors would be purple. You hear a lot of people say purple sea moss. You can have green sea moss. You can kind of have some that have a variation of colors. And then you have the golden. So the golden is the most popular. And this one being the sea moss in the Caribbean, I get mine from St. Lucia, is the proper term or technical term genus Gracilaria, which is this one.
That's a handful. We're going to get back to that. And we're going to get back into the value and the properties of sea moss going into your body. But first, I want to come to Dr. Deepak. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Brother Baruti. How are you?
I am doing blessed as well as can be. It's just good to be alive. There's so many things happening in the world. There's actually people dying. There's a war going on. And so we have to be very thankful for the time that we have, the opportunities that we have. Not everybody has the same level of peace that we have right this second. And there are many more difficulties going on. So I want to say how blessed I am. This is our 107th episode of the Sourceseeker Hour. I was sharing with the audience that we started in the studio, and you were one of my guests in the studio. And it's just a beautiful thing to just keep on going, keep on living, and it just gets more beautiful, more powerful. Our discussion tonight is how to, excuse me, let me say it right, how to get a mindset of diet and fitness. And I've been talking with the Houston sea moss queen. She's been telling me about sea moss and the properties of that. And we're going to get into the properties, by the way. But I would like you to introduce yourself and share whatever you would like to. Then I'm going to go back to the sea moss queen. Dr. Deepak, please.
Hi, so I'm an optometrist. I'm an optometric glaucoma specialist. I do practice privately. I'm also a heritage yoga instructor. We have been teaching yoga, spiritual yoga, right? Instead of the exercise yoga, the spiritual yoga, the wisdom for the past 30 years. And I've been on and off radio and so forth, as Brother Baruti mentioned. So I'm here to assist and share thoughts in any way I can and to learn from the group.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Oh, it's such a blessing. It's such a blessing. And maybe we'll have a couple of more people join us. It's a powerful occasion to be able to share, to come on and talk about whatever's going on in the world. Diet and fitness, and as I was sharing with the Houston sea moss queen, it's not an easy thing. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
True.
And, you know, I asked her a question, which is harder to learn, to diet or to exercise? And for me, both of them are hard, you know, so, but I also shared that it's a mindset. It is a mindset because you can know all of these things, diet, exercise, not drinking, not smoking. You can know all of these things are good for you and things you're supposed to do, and you still don't do it. And that's a deeper thing. And that is a part of the mission that I talk about. I like to always bring it back to that. And so even though we know the right thing, it is possible to still do the wrong thing. But we certainly need to know the right things and what's the right things to put in our body. Sister Camille, I wanted to get into the properties of why put moss in my body. What does it do?
Okay. I did want to finish. This is the gel. I turned to
Okay,
the
yes.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So these are my normal bottles. I have 4 different kinds. I have the original sea moss, elderberry added, bladderwrack, which is also the seaweed added, and then triple threat, which is sea moss, bladderwrack, and burdock root for more added benefits, of course, because they kind of act as like different herbs.
Tell me that again. Bladder, what else?
Bladderwrack. So I have original, which is this one. This is just the sea moss and spring water. I have elderberry and sea moss as an option, bladderwrack and sea moss, and then the triple threat, which is the sea moss plus bladderwrack and burdock root.
What? So when you bring those into your body, how do they work? Do they help bring down? I'm trying to think of that C word. What are some of the things that they do in your body? It was a specific one I was thinking of. It starts with a C, but I'll get back to that. I was trying to think of it, but go ahead.
Yes, so you take 2 teaspoons daily is what I recommend, but pretty much it has the 92 minerals of the 102 that the body is composed of. So it really helps to balance our nutritional poor bodies. It has really good heart health because it helps with lowering cholesterol levels.
Correct. That was it. That was it. Cholesterol. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. Yes.
Yes. So it helps lower cholesterol levels. as well as it helps like bones, joints, hair, skin, immune system boosts, energy boosts, thyroid, because it has iodine in it, digestion, post-workout recovery, libido, all types of stuff. The list goes on.
Sounds powerful. Is there any differences from the generic brand or the brands that you get at Walgreens and so forth that say they do some of those same things?
Yeah, so if you have it in a store, say it was like a big commercial store, you'd have to watch out for preservatives, right? Because the shelf life is usually 4 to 6 weeks if you add fruit to it.
For the layman, what is preservatives?
Like a lot of people, what is it? They use acetic acid to prolong the life of food. And of course, that's a chemical, so it doesn't really have many positive effects. So, it's just a shelf life kind of item. But you'd have that. But the biggest thing in the sea moss community would be wild crafted, which would be kind of more of the organic, natural occurring in the ocean sea moss versus the farm raised or pool. So pretty much someone that would take the wild crafted authentic, and because they want to make more money, they would kind of make a small pool with salt water and then make maybe a fake current and populate it that way. So of course, because sea moss is so beneficial because of all the minerals and nutrients it gets from the ocean, you wouldn't be getting that. So it would be less, for lack of a better word, potent, So that's the biggest thing.
Less potent. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask this question: the market, how have people responded?
People are responding very well. So before it was kind of not a lot of people knew about it, but when COVID hit with Dr. Sebi, he's a Honduras natural kind of medicine guy who made it very popular in the U.S. And then, of course, like the Caribbean, they grew up on it. Ireland, they grew up on it. So they've always known about it. But when COVID hit, because COVID hit initially hit the lungs, right? And you're breathing, sea moss is a really good at removing mucus as well as inflammation. So it was very helpful in that way. And that's how it really boomed in the last 2 years with it being very popular because of Dr. Sebi in the US and as well as COVID. And
we had
really
a show. I apologize. We had a show about Dr. Sebi, or some people pronounce it different ways, but we had a show about him in the studio, and we talked about a lot of those particular aspects. One of the things we talked about was alkaline water and different things like that. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Okay. We talked about that, and it's many different aspects that came into the conversation. Dr. Deepak, diet and fitness, that area comes into yoga. It comes into meditation. How much does it factor into the thinking of how you all look at designing your meditation, your yoga program?
So you've touched on something very important, Brother Barudi. We have a whole science just on diet, and it is a part of what we call Ayurveda. And Ayurveda means the science of life, how to live, right? And so it encompasses pretty much everything that can affect a human being. And you have to remember diet includes everything that you ingest, whether it is with your mouth, whether it is with your eyes, through your skin, through your nose, through your ears. So Ayurveda addresses all that. So diet and fitness is very important. We classify foods and liquids in essentially whatever you consume, including music, into 3 categories. And these 3 categories then will determine your mindset. So for instance, if you eat a passionate food, such as an onion, you are less likely to meditate peacefully. All right, it agitates the mind. If you eat
I
spicy,
just got to mention that I hadn't even thought about an onion being passionate, and I'm sure you have some other. That's a adjective, I think. I think that's adjective. Or am I getting that wrong? Or adverb? I get
no,
them
you're fine.
confused. But you see where I'm going with that. And
Yes.
Please describe more because and share that aspect of it also, of those different things in that language of perception that you're talking about.
So, I'll give you an example. If you go to a rock concert, when you come home, you're not going to be able to meditate. So if you eat spicy foods or foods that have onion and garlic and so forth, your mind's going to be agitated until that flushes out of your system. So you're not going to be able to meditate. Also, you're going to be more temperamental if you consume such foods more so than your body needs. So we are very careful when we instruct our students and our patients as to what and when should be eaten. For instance, you should not eat fruits with vegetables. That tends to make a mess. So when I hear something like a fruit smoothie or a vegetable smoothie, it drives me mad. Um, smoothies in general, food needs to be digested, and digestion starts right here in the mouth, especially for fruits and vegetables, right? So there's a whole science that goes into this. So if you want to extract and utilize what you eat, you have to start properly.
Can I just ask, let me make sure I'm clear. You said smoothies because they're already crushed up, not good, pretty
Correct.
much?
You shouldn't be drinking, you should not be drinking your fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
Okay. And you should not be consuming the two together. There should be about an hour's worth of difference.
Oh.
And then certain fruits, such as citrus fruits, cannot be combined with other fruits, such as pears and peaches and bananas and so forth. So this is where Ayurveda takes over. So we have a whole classification system of how to eat and consume, whether it's music, whether it's food, whether it's liquids, right? So you cannot consume, for instance, pizza and a Coke is a terrible, terrible idea, right? And I'm not saying Coke in particular, but any ice cold drink, right? Ice cold drinks anyway are debilitative. You mentioned alkaline, right? So alkaline water. Well, what needs to be alkaline is your blood and your urine. So you have to eat foods that alkalinize you, right?
Can you share what alkaline means? I know I mentioned the word. Can you share what that means?
Yeah, so there's a pH scale, and a pH of 7 is neutral. Anything below a pH of 7 is considered acidic. So battery acid, for instance, right, is acidic. Anything above a pH 7 is considered alkaline or basic. And in some cases, you want your system to be basic or alkaline. And so urine is a good indicator of how alkaline your system is. The pH of your blood is a good indicator of how alkaline your system is. If you're dehydrated, for instance, you're going to start running a little more acidic. If you're properly hydrated, then you're going to go more towards neutral. pH of 7 is neutral, and that's where you want to hang. If you over drink water, I see people sipping water all the time. That's a really bad idea to sip water through the day. That's not how the body needs it. But if you're over drinking water, you're going to start pushing more acidic again. That's hypernatremia, and that's not what you want. So you want homeostasis. You want basically what we call equilibrium. It's neither too acidic nor too basic, right? So the idea is, if you want to control your body, first you must get control over your mind. Therefore, you consume foods that allow you to regain control of your mind, because at the end of the day, the entire game is in the mind. You can say this evening, tonight, hey, tomorrow I'm going to be up at 4:30 and I'm going to go for the jog. You wake up at 4:30 in the morning, it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll start tomorrow, I promise. Right? Where did the person that made that promise go? So it is the mind then that becomes subservient, right? And shouldn't be that way. You should have control of your mind. Your mind should be under your control, and therefore your body should be under your control, right?
Let me interject this. Yes, the mind should be in our control, but there's a lot of factors trying to help get control of the mind, influence the mind. And
Absolutely.
A lot of what we talk about here is that. I wanted to go back to the Moss Queen. We talked about a lot of things. Diet and fitness, both are important. I shared how difficult it is for myself to get a hold of either one of those. We talked about before the show, which one is harder, and you shared a lot of good information on that. Can you go back to that, recollect some of that? Which one is harder and why, and how can we better get a hold of that?
That's for me.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Excuse me.
Yeah. So I had chose, I believe, diet was harder because of like was Dr. Deepak, right?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. Yeah. Dr. Deepak talked about the mind and how certain foods affect you. And we previously talked about, I brought up sugar and how sugar can cause you to overeat, and it causes you to like stress and you just can't focus, right? So for me, I'll take myself for example. I recently had a bad eating habits the last year and a half. So I've been working to control my diet, get in the gym and be consistent. I got to a point, at first, I think I was ready. So I got my diet underway. So I was doing better there. But then I was working on my trainer, came from Thanksgiving. I was ready to go for the second month. He caught COVID. He was out 2 weeks. And then that's around when the super contagious one, what was it called?
The Delta?
No, not Delta.
It's been an Omicron?
I want to say it was Omicron, but I don't know if that's the right name. But it was December, January, that one. Okay. I caught that. So he caught it. Then 2 weeks later, I caught it. So, and then holidays, it just threw me off and I really got really down, you know? So then I started stress eating. And in January, I really hit all my workouts. I was going in with him 3 days a week. I have 3 days I'm supposed to do by myself. I kind of didn't make those, but the scale was going up and down because my diet was not in order. And I feel like because I was eating all those sugars, I could not focus. I could not center myself. I could not be patient. I could not be disciplined because I just had so much going on because of all this stuff. And I know it was related to my diet. So trying to get that first week, you know, you're addicted to sugar, you're addicted to salt, you're addicted to fat. So it's just like, I went through those, you know, first it was sugars, I want sugar. Then when I got over sugar, it was like, okay, I need some salty. And then after that, it was like greasy, I need grease. And then after that, it's like, I do feel a lot calmer. I'm not eating necessarily, like I like a more plant-based diet. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, you said after that, so what did you do to finally break free and change direction?
So my trainer and I planned, because I had a meal plan that I wasn't following. So I decided we said, you know, for the next 4 weeks, which Monday will be 4 weeks, that I need to stick to it. And it's like, and like you said, I know all these things, right? But knowing things and putting them into action and executing is the hard part, you know? So the first week was hard. Second week, I probably was just like grumpy and like irritated, like, I don't want to eat this. And then like now it's a lot better. I feel clear. I have more clarity. And then even going to the gym and eating better, you know, it's something I want to do now. You know, it's nothing I have to really fight myself for. So that's why
it gets easier.
Yes. Okay. And then of course with diet, like I said previously, you can lose weight and gain weight with diet alone. You don't necessarily have to work out. So I feel like although none of us want to go to the gym and like you trying to squeeze working out into your already hectic schedule can be hard in that way. But I feel like overall diet is the hardest in my opinion, just because
Go ahead.
just because of all the the bad things that are put into it to make you addicted, the things that the doctor talked about with, you know, affecting your mood and your mind, right, and your chemical structure, as well as just the, you know, being readily available. You know, if you want to be healthy, you really have to, like, when I make the decision to eat healthy, I have to know in the back of my mind, okay, what side of town am I on? And what are my like 3 backup fast food restaurants that have good options that I can go to just in case, because I don't want to risk, you know, going back to something and then now I'm like back on the path, or I have to, you know, because sugar is very addicting. So
I'd like to ask both guests. So are you part diet, just fish? What would you describe your diet as? Sister Camille, you first.
so currently on my meal plan, I'm pretty much ground turkey, salmon, chicken, and then vegetables. And then mainly, I would like to be more plant-based. So probably like maybe 1 meat a day, and then kind of go from there. But I am not a fan of soy products. So like the tofu, tempeh, all the kind of I would say unhealthy vegan options, plant-based options, I'm not a fan because they're highly processed.
Understood. Dr. Deepak, what would you suggest?
So I am 100% plant-based, have been. I've always been a vegetarian, but I have made a conscious effort and mindset that I'm going to try and go towards about 80% raw, and that's healthy. I'm at about 60% raw right now.
When you say raw, are you talking about raw meat, raw vegetables?
I'm 100% plant-based.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So,
okay.
No dairy, not even mushrooms. By the way, mushrooms are not vegan.
Okay.
So mushrooms are not plants. But having said that, I'm about 60% raw. Yeah, I know. But the idea is that the more raw food that you eat, the closer you are to nature in every respect, the healthier you're going to be. And so for inspiration, we should look to nature. And if nature doesn't do it, then we should refrain from it. You know, the sea moss queen brought up sugar. Sugar, I don't know how many people know this, but up until about 40 or 50 years ago, was only available from a pharmacy. It is so addicting. Sugar is so addicting. It was classified almost as a drug. You had to get it from a pharmacy, and it was behind the counter. And so, you know, things that
you say 40 or 50 years ago?
I think so. I could be off just a little bit, but the point being that we know humans, we know that it's addictive, that it's the wrong thing to do. And yet we have made it so widely available. Everything now is processed. And so, you know, the other thing is soy. Processed soy is bad. Soy in and of itself is not. So you have to follow the money, and you have to follow who funded the studies that say that soy is bad. Soy is not bad. Soy is healthy. Processed soy is unhealthy. And then, you know, you brought up thyroid, right? So iodine and thyroid, right? So that's a complex system. You brought up stress and comfort foods. So let's talk about that for a second. Stress is the #1 killer in this country. You know, heart attacks, strokes, and so forth, right? Because when your stress level goes up, your bad hormones.
I just want to ask this. You know something about the world. Is America worse in the stress? Are there more deaths because of stress in America than other parts of the world?
Let me put it to you this way. I'm going to refer back to a China study. China Study is a book written by Dr. Camille, I believe. It was a PhD, and he used to work for the US Department of Agriculture. But in his study, one of the things that he pointed out was that, and he does this at several places, is he studied populations all over the world. One of the places that he studied them was India and China. And what he discovered was that the rural people, the rural population, lived longer and were more free of diseases than the suburbans and the urban people. The urban people had more diseases of the rich, heart attacks, Alzheimer's, stress, anxiety disorders, sleep disorders, and the list goes on. And so the rural population, the farmers, the poor population could not afford the meat. And this was a glaring thing that stood out amongst all his research. And Dr. Campbell himself was a beef farmer. He had a ranch. He was a rancher, and he went 100% vegan, and now his entire family is vegan. So I'm not pushing vegan agenda, but you bring up an interesting point. So the ills that we create are self-made. If we're gonna eat donuts, we're gonna get diabetes, right? If we're gonna drink lots of soda, if you drink one bottle of soda, I don't want to go into names, but there's something ridiculous like 30 to 40 packets of sugar per can. Can you imagine 30 to 40 packets of sugar in a highly acidic solution? And that, if you were to put in something else, would corrode the container, right? So this is something that we're doing ourselves. But anyway, to get back to the stress hormones are bad. So you have cortisols. When you have a stressful situation and your cortisol levels go up, we typically call that the lay people know this as fight or flight hormones, right? So if you stay in a constant level of stress and you are in a constant elevated level of cortisols break down tissue. They don't repair tissue. So they're catabolic hormones. They destroy things. They get you ready to fight or flight. And after that, you're supposed to rest. So if you're in a constant level of anxiety and stress, you're going to look for a way out. And comfort foods are now the easiest way out because we have in our mind associated that with temporary happiness and alleviation of stress. Because while we're eating this, we don't feel the stress. And afterwards, we may resent ourselves, which I know I do, but that doesn't change the behavior. So the key is we have to get to the bottom of it, and the game is in the mind. We have to get to stress management. If you are able to change your mindset, you are able to overcome anything you want.
I agree. That's why I go back to this. You can know about diet. You can know about fitness. You can know about all the things that you're supposed to do. But then you have so many things that make it easy or influence you to not do what you know you should do.
Correct.
And that is a part of that question I asked earlier about, is it harder in America, basically?
It is. And to answer your question, yes, it's a rich nation's disease. So you're not going to find this, for instance, if you go to the island of Hawaii, if you go outside the main touristy attractions and towns, the farmers in Hawaii are still just as healthy as their ancestors were. But the people that have migrated to the urban centers now have the rich people's disease. So yes, in the West, we have created this ourselves, and we are unfortunately starting to pay the price for it. So we need to recognize where the enemy is and mitigate that.
So the enemy, to a certain extent, is who he always has been, given different factors throughout history. Always, the enemy has been our own mind. And that's what I've been talking about. But I don't necessarily want to call it the enemy, more so the challenge. But so, it's almost like an enemy because you got something coming at you that you know is coming, and it makes it difficult. So, but diet and exercise are very much key to any progress in a lot of ways. Of course, you wouldn't have financial, but if you're in good physical shape, then it helps affect your mind. Then you can have more assets, if you will, to accomplish those things that you need to accomplish. So that's why it's so important. Sister Camille, we've talked about a lot of things, but I want to get back to the properties of moss And then you talked about the different textures and different things that they come in. What are some of the things that the people ask you when you're out there and sharing with them? Have they come up with some of the questions that I did about it being in the water and then it being green? And what do you tell them?
Yeah, so pretty much I try to do a good job of explaining things to people. Like I have frames that show like the benefits, some of the main benefits that I mentioned, the mucus removal, the inflammation, anti-inflammatory properties, as well as the like elderberry and things like that, so they can look around. And I keep like the raw on display because I do feel information is key, and you do want to understand what you're putting in your body and how it can help you. A lot of people come to me and they tell me about their issues. So they'll say, I might have eczema, it helps with eczema. A lot of people talk about digestive issues. And because I forget what property
You
it
talked
is.
about cholesterol. I
Mhm.
remember
Yeah,
that.
we did. I forget what property it is that helps with the gut health. I want to say it's the polysaccharides, but it has a lot of good properties that help coat the lining of the intestines and other organs. That helps to just make it a lot more comfortable for things, because you have a lot of inflammation, as well as something else that helps with acid reflux. It's so much information, but it's just a lot of things like that that help. So people look for digestive issues. A lot of people have thyroid issues, so the iodine content really helps. A lot of people do ask about the wild crafted versus farm raised. I explained that. And then kind of key things to look out for, such as this one has the small, like finger-like projections on it. A lot of times, if it was pull raised, it'd be more nubby because there's nothing for it to reach out and latch onto. As well as people kind of go on based on size. So pretty much this should pretty much double in size when I soak it, because I clean it, I soak it, and then I blend it into the gels, and that's how you consume it. But it'll kind of triple in size. So those are things to look out for. But those are pretty much the questions I get. And then, of course, how to use it, what can you do? I always recommend consuming it is the best because of the nutrition and minerals that we're not getting, because we live in the West. A lot of people do ask, oh, can I do a face mask, hair mask? You can, but of course, the most beneficial way would be to consume it. So.
Okay. And you mentioned that you had an uptick in sales and conversation during the COVID period. Just an aside, and we are going to have a show about this. What do you feel? Where is COVID doing? Are we just going to get basically used to it? Are more people going to get more, how shall I say, not generic, but natural in their care and their products and the things that they take in? They're going to get more natural because of COVID and want to keep a healthy immune system. What do you feel about that?
So I do a farmer's market every Saturday. So that helps me be face to face with my clients. So I get a lot of people and get a pulse on like kind of, what's going on. I started my business in COVID. So I did notice some more pickup after summer, like a lot more people like picking up on it. Even recently, I've noticed a lot of kind of like different types of people coming because of Dr. Sebi is very prominent in the African American community, and a lot of other like cultures and stuff are very familiar with natural. So I have been getting different demographics now because of like social media influence. Like Kim Kardashian mentioned it sometime, maybe a year ago. There's other people just kind of picking up on it, right? So they're like, oh, I've heard about it, I want to try it. Before it was kind of more like, oh, what's that? I don't want that. It looks funny. Like what, they were just kind of turned off, but now people are like more interested. So that's very funny. It's very, well, not funny, but it's very interesting to me, just to see that change and shift. As far as diets, I do kind of feel that a lot of people, because of everything that's going on in the news and the kind of kickback with like, is the vaccine good? Is the vaccine not? And people talking about it, all the controversy in the news. A lot of people from what I've talked to, want to go more holistic. They want to go more natural. You know, they're realizing the harms and effects of, you know, all the poor eating habits, because a lot of people were stuck at home, so they were eating bad, you know, and it was affecting them. And then as far as like really seeing, like, you know, I don't want to take all these medicines. I'm taking, you know, 6, 7 different medicines for like the 4 to 5 different issues I have, you know, and I want to get off of those. And a lot of people see that a lot of those are mimicked off of things that happen naturally, you know, naturally occurring in the world, like, you know, of the earth. Like Dr. Deepak said, you know, you want to go to the earth and follow that. And a lot of these medicines do have side effects because they don't necessarily act well with the body, you know. They're not I don't know. I don't know if I want to say like biologically sound. Like the body can't really break them down the way they could if it came from the earth.
You
So
said
I
it
do.
very well.
Oh, thanks.
You did.
I think I
You
was
said
looking
it
for a
very
specific
well.
word. Thank you. But yeah, I do feel that. And a lot of people ask me like, hey, you know, do you have any ideas or recipes, you know, how I can, you know, mix this? Or do you have, a lot of people ask me for detoxes, and just, you know, people are really trying to inform themselves to be a better them. And that's all I could ask for, you know, because all we want to do is be better than we were the day before, and just like really optimize our bodies. Because a lot of times I try to tell people, because I tell them about the sea moss, but of course it's like, you don't want to just take the sea moss and then still eat bad. You know, I try to tell them, you know, a lot of foods that we eat, the meats, including seafood, you know, the starches, the dairy, the all that produces a lot of pus and mucus in the body. And that's what Dr. Sebi talks about. And it talks about, you know, pretty much everything, like a accumulation of mucus in a certain part of the body is what causes the disease. Like dis-ease is discomfort in the body. So you have it in the heart, congestive heart failure, lungs, pneumonia, and et cetera, you know, that for so forth. And I actually had a book. I don't know if it was around the same time, but it's a guy called Dr. Arnold Ehret, and he talked about a plant-based diet as well as a mucusless diet back in the late 1800s. And I thought that was very fascinating. But I try to tell them that, and like, you know, to try to help them with their diets, because a lot of people I've found in my line of work, now that I'm doing this and talking to people, that they are not familiar with like what a good diet looks like. They're not familiar with, you know, it's a lot of, because a lot of different places we go to that are supposed to help us with like heart health and things like that, like the recipes and things they have are still not good, you know. They're still really heavy on like all the things I mentioned before. But, you know, trying to direct them there, tell them about that, and saying, you know, do we really need to eat meat 3, 4 times a day, every day? When you add that up, that's a lot. You know, you're really backing up your digestive system, you know, and just trying to inform people. I kind of went all over the place. I was going somewhere specific, but it's just a lot. So I just like that people are really trying to put their health first, because without your health, you can't really do anything else. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Sorry. I try to tell them, to help them understand is, you know, the body is a machine, right? That's how I look at it. And it's like, if you are a Tesla, a Rolls Royce, or, well, no, not a Tesla, because I don't use gas. If you're a Rolls Royce, right, you're not going to put unleaded gas in your car. You're going to put top of the notch gas in your vehicle because you want it to run and operate the way it's meant to operate. And I say that's the same thing you want to do with your body. You can give it the sugar and the candy and the cheese and all that stuff, but you're not going to operate at the potential that you were meant and can operate at. So that's why eating plant-based, putting living things in your body. If you look at your plate, and most of 50% and more is not living, it's been like cooked and like killed or whatever, you're not really giving your machine, your body, the tools and fuel it needs to produce the things that you want at the rate that you would like or can, you know. You're setting yourself back.
Very much so. And well spoken and well placed, the way you put the words and so forth. You made it plain. And I wanted to ask Dr. Deepak the same question about the time of COVID. during this time? Do you see an uptick of people more so into diet, into exercise, into taking care of themselves?
Absolutely. So, I wrote a couple of articles at the beginning of COVID, and I had said that COVID is going to be around at least 2 or 3 years in its brute force. It's going to take a lot of lives, and it's going to change fundamentally how we live and how we think. And it has all this remote work and so forth, right? But the main thing is people have realized that things are things. Family and spirituality, they have reconnected to each other and to spirituality. And so they have found and repurposed their life. They have found something higher. It's not necessarily just a job anymore that they want. They want a job with a meaning now. They want to make a difference. They want to live more wholesome lives. And so part of that is their diet. People are quitting left, right, and center. You can't find workers anywhere now, right? And they're quitting because they realize that material things are just material things. Gone here today, gone tomorrow. But to live better lives, to live healthier lives, if the diets are better, they're going to outlive stuff like diseases like COVID. And it's not just COVID, it's diabetes, it's obesity, it's hypertension, and the list goes on, all the way up to mental disorders, right? So all these can be managed starting with diet. And then it goes ahead and it has to include lifestyle changes. Lifestyle changes are a must, but people have really woken up to, yes, we have to eat better if we want to not just live, but thrive. So.
You mean, are you saying not just to live, but to drive a car?
No, to thrive. To
oh,
thrive.
Okay.
To live well, to live a wholesome
to
life.
thrive. I got it now.
To live a meaningful life, right? A purpose-oriented life.
Okay.
So families become very important again.
Very much so. And as you said, diet and fitness are very important, and having a will to accomplish them is important also. And I like to bring things back to that. We're toward the end of our program. This is the 107th episode of the Sourceseeker Hour. I'm your host, Baruti Carl Alexander. It has been a very important, you all gave me a lot of things to think about. I'm still on that onion. That passionate onion. And there's so many different things. And, this is something we need to talk about more. And we got to talk about having the will to do the right thing. And every time we talk about what those right things are, we bring that in also. And we want to help each other, support each other to pursue those particular right things, and to make it through some of the trials and the difficulties that we have going on. This again was our 107th episode. At this time, I would like to give each of my guests a chance to make a statement, share whatever you would like to share, but also share if the audience members would like to talk with you, how they may. Dr. Deepak, would you go ahead and share with the audience?
Yes. So we have to remember that the mind is an extension of the physical body. It is not a separate entity. It's like a pendulum, right? So the healthier the body, the healthier the mind. And the healthier the mind, the healthier the body. It's a complete circle. So we must eat well to be able to think well, to have the clarity of mind, to have the peace and so forth. We have to be physically fit in order to be mentally fit. We can't say, hey, I'm going to wake up tomorrow at 4:30 or whatever time it is and then not do it. We just have to find meaningful ways to make it happen. And it doesn't have to involve spending money. It just has to be where we find a purpose. We have to find a higher purpose. If we are fit, we're better able to take care of our family and of our society and of our country. So we have to be an asset to everybody that we come in contact with and not be a liability, right? But healthy eating is where it starts. Kind of like the CMOS Queen said, right? You cannot be putting junk down this Rolls Royce. This is one of the most expensive machines on the planet. And it is the only one that you're ever going to have. And so you want to keep it intact and you want to keep it wholesome. So start making wise choices every time you put something in your mouth, whether it's a soda or something dead, as she said. I love that. You cannot be putting dead stuff and expect energy and healthy benefits out of it. It has to be alive. That's why raw plant-based diets being integrated into your lifestyles are so important. But if people need to reach me, my email is the best way to do it. It's EYEGURU@msn.com. That's iguru@msn.com. I may not be able to answer right away. I do work 6 days a week. I apologize, but I'm pretty quick about responding.
Thank you. That's Dr. Deepak. That's the iGuru, giving us and sharing with us very powerful information. If you all want to reach out to him, he just gave you his information and very powerful. Thank you very much. Sister Camille, Sea Moss Queen, would you like to give a final statement as well as share what you would like to share about contact?
Yes, I feel like Dr. Deepak really put it into perspective, really putting your health first. CMOS does help with that. It does give you a lot of benefits and minerals that you can get rather quickly. But of course, you do need to keep in mind that, what you're eating, what you're consuming, and all that stuff does affect, mind, body, soul. So doing that, I will actually be using that iGuru email address because I'm very interested in this. I think you said spiritual yoga.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really interested in that. So I'll be contacting you. But my contacts are Instagram and Facebook, Houston Sea Moss Queen. Phone number, feel free to call or text 832-308-0027. I also keep product at a resale shop in 3rd Ward by the name of Possessions Boutique at 4310 Almeida Road. That's where I met you, Dr. Baruti. Yeah, 4310 Almeida Road, Houston, Texas, open every day, 11 to 7 p.m. Just ask for Ty. He's the shop owner. He'll be able to help you get some sea moss gel. Otherwise, contact me directly or catch one of my pop-ups at farmers markets. But thank
Very
you
powerful. Yes, ma'am.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me and allowing me to be part of such a wonderful podcast interview.
Thank you
very
welcome. It was for inviting me.
Very powerful broadcast. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And we had a lot of info, and we're going to have to continue in the Brightest Source group. We have once a month, Sourceseeker has once a month where we discuss things dealing with mental health, wellness, taking care of ourselves, exercise, the whole gamut of information that is community-based, family-based, and as far as finding our best self. It's one thing to know and understand what you're supposed to do. It's another thing to accomplish it. And that's one thing that we're about. I'm Baruti Carl Alexander. I'm the Source Seeker. That name has some meaning. We thank you all very much for joining us today. We'll see you next time. We're going to have a sports show next time, and then we're going to talk about climate change. So we'll see you. Thank you all. Have a good evening.